Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Of employees who are putting away money into an employer-sponsored retirement plan, 50% are saving 6% of their income or less. What's your immediate thought when you hear that number? 6% or less. I was reading an article titled, "Putting 6% of your income towards retirement could still leave you coming up short. Here's what to do instead." Well, truth be told, there's more to this 6% figure than meets the eye. When you dig into the data from the Mass Mutual study, it turns out people are contributing 6% of their pay to their employer-sponsored retirement plan because they participate in a plan where the employer matches 50 cents per dollar contributed by the employee up to 6% of this employee's income. And that is the most popular employer match option that is offered on the marketplace. So assuming you put in 6% of your pay, your employer will come along and match 50% up to that 6% threshold. So cumulatively, you end up with a 9% savings rate once you factor in the employer match. And just in case you're wondering, the second most popular employer match option that's available on the market is a dollar for dollar match up to 3% of your income. So how this one works is for every dollar you put in, your employer will come along and contribute a dollar up to 3% of your earnings. But all in all, the median savings rate going into these employer-sponsored retirement plans, including employer match, comes in at 9%. When we're looking at the average, it's a little bit higher, coming in at 11.7%. Going back to that savings rate of 6% or 9%, what are your immediate thoughts? I feel like it's so easy to have the immediate reaction of, yeah, that seems like a pretty low savings rate. After all, we constantly hear how you need to be saving more and more if you ever hope to step away from the workforce and have some semblance of a good retirement. Isn't that the case? Well, reading through this article, that was the theme. Over and over and over again, they repeated that that was not enough to be saving. They're going to be falling short. People need to save at least 15% of their income for retirement, or they'll be significantly underfunding their later years, said Bruce Tannehill, Director of Estate and Business Planning at Mass Mutual. There's a reason for that rate. The typical employer match says we'll match 50% up to 6%. So that's the number that's in people's minds, 6%. If you do a 50% match for 6%, your total is 9%. Everyone agrees that's too low, said Joshua Gottbaum, a guest scholar in the Economic Studies program at the Brookings Institution. And I think it can be so easy to have this knee-jerk reaction that that's too low of a savings rate. I mean, heck, I'm kind of right there with everyone. It does sound kind of low when you first hear it. I do think we should be saving as much as we can so we have a fully funded retirement and we can one day step away from the workforce. I believe that we should be paying down our debts and working to increase our incomes. I believe in all the traditional financial advice. That's what my whole channel is about. But I want to take a moment to talk about that 6% figure or that 9% figure once we factor in the employer match, because there's a chance it's not too off the mark. First, we have to consider the context. The biggest piece of all of this is when you start saving. The younger you start saving, the lower the savings rate you can comfortably get away with. The older you start saving, well, you're probably going to need a higher savings rate. Plain and simple. And I actually recently did do a video on how much you need to save, the percentage of your income you need to be saving based on when you start saving. And I'll link that down below if you're interested in checking it out. If we break it down by generation, baby boomers started investing around the age of 35. Gen X started on average investing around the age of 30. Millennials started investing around the age of 25, and Gen Z started saving right out of the gate at 19 years old. Now, if you're a member of the younger generations, say you're a millennial or say you're Gen Z, and say you started saving around those average timeframes, you started investing around the age of 25 or 19, and you're planning a traditional retirement, say around the age of 65, well, a 9% savings rate isn't that bad. Let's say you have a $50,000 income and you put away 6% of your income, then your employer comes along and matches 3% of that, so you have a total savings rate of 9%. Well, that means you would be putting away $4,500 every single year into your 401k. If you start at the age of 25 and continue investing all the way to the age of 65, that gives you a 40-year time horizon. Assuming standard market returns of 10% and then factoring in a 2% long long-term inflation, this would give you an inflation-adjusted amount of $1.3 million. Or let's say you started even earlier, right at the age of 19. Now you have an even longer time horizon with 46 years of investing. Under the exact same conditions, you would now have $2 million. And remember, these are inflation-adjusted dollars, so it would be the equivalent of $2 million in terms of today's purchasing power. What's more is these calculations don't even factor in any wage increases, and that's highly unlikely over the course of an entire working career. Most of us start with our early years being our lower earning years and then tend to get wage increases as our careers progress over time. So even if you don't increase the percentage that you're saving, you would actually end up increasing the total dollar amount as your income increased over time. And this would of course be that you want to keep your lifestyle in check and not just inflate your spending just because your income is increasing. You always want to make sure that you're still saving something. Or what if we had a dual income earning household? Dual income earning households are becoming more and more popular. It's not unreasonable to think that each person could put away 6% of their income. And if each person was able to capture 3% from their employer and each person had that savings rate of 9%, well, you would effectively double the previous numbers that we talked about. And that could provide a very nice retirement. And in either of those previous situations, you get to that retirement at 65 years old. For the individual who started saving at 25 with a portfolio of 1.3 million, if you apply a safe rate of withdrawal of 4%, you can see that this person can take out $52,000 a year from their portfolio. If the individual had started saving at 19, they would have a $2 million portfolio and now could withdraw about $80,000 a year. It's even better if these funds were invested into a Roth account because then they come out completely tax-free. I think what prompted me to make this video was the specific quote I saw from Joshua Gottbaum, where he said, "Everyone agrees that's too low." I think that's really dangerous territory to get into. Hearing the statement like everyone agrees that this is too low immediately made me question, were there situations that this savings rate could work in, and maybe not just work, but work well? And I think that answer comes down to those who start saving early and do so consistently throughout their entire working career. But honestly, I feel like those people, those that start early and stick with it, tend to be those natural savers, the ones who are more likely to increase their savings rate over time. But I think this message is actually more important for those of us who aren't hardwired to save, for those of us who have more of the inclination to spend, to hear that even if you save a modest amount, as soon as you start early and stick with it consistently throughout your entire working career, you can retire with a robust nest egg. You can retire and have a very well-funded retirement. Sometimes I feel like the narrative out there is just a little bit too aggressive. The narrative that you need to save 15% of your income. It can't be a penny less. Or forget 15%, make it 20%. Or forget 20%, now it has to be 25%. Sometimes I feel like this narrative is just a little bit too aggressive, and it feels like we're browbeating people with the idea that if you aren't saving X amount, you're just doomed. You're not ever going to be able to retire. That you're just going to be hanging on by a thread. But I think you learn with time and with experience that there's a lot of different ways to make things work. There's no one route to retirement, and retirement doesn't look the same for everybody. Not everybody has to save the exact same percentage. What you need depends on your situation. At the end of the day, you have to save something. You have to invest something. Your life is going to be far more enjoyable if you're living within your means and setting something aside for your future. But how much you need to be setting aside depends on your situation. What is your ideal savings rate? Put your thoughts in a comment down below. My hunch is that we have a big group of super savers here, so those percentages are going to be pretty high. So while you're there, also give me your thoughts on, say, a 6% savings rate or a 9% savings rate. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Oh, my stomach is so loud. Let's say, agrees this cannot work.